Oh boy, do I love slopping together a big wet lunch on my gas stove. Hashtag cooking with gas. And posted. Sorry, I just had to do a quick Instagram post about just the vague
Dude, the countertops scream fake marble, but like the appliances are like relatively new, but like it's so obvious this is like a mid-level. This is like a middle income first rental unit that you get when you actually make more than like 80 grand a year in California. Okay, this right here. Fake ass appliances are old, fake ass marble countertops. You can tell though, the cabinets actually give the game away. Okay? He didn't ask you to critique his apartment. Well, I'm doing it anyway. It's such a the cabinets give the game away. Okay? Like classic. This is like this was last like the last time this apartment got like a makeover was in late 2000s, I would say.
Concept of the gas stove. A very real thing the natural gas lobby is quietly paying influencers to do.
That's so weird. Hashtag cooking with gas recipes. That's so wild that they're doing this.
Advertise a specific brand of gas stove or gas utility just to remind us that we love gas. And if anyone should, I don't know, try to get us to stop using gas for any reason, then it's a war on dear sweet gas. And we can't let that happen to gas. Gas has always been there for us. Gas was there when our girlfriends broke up with us, okay? Gas has only been nice to us. I love gas. I love you, gas. Do you love me? And if it feels like the natural gas industry paying kids to post pro-gas messages has big let's get out in front of this energy, you nailed it. Because natural gas, like coal and oil, is a fossil fuel. And as countless studies and climate scientists and all the fossil fuel companies themselves have noted, burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases, which heat up the planet and cause things like increased fires and floods and droughts and a whole bunch of climate changey etceteras that devastate families and ruin lives. Now, gas utilities don't like climate change, but they really don't like losing even the tiniest bit of money. So they've decided to make one final desperate stand at the gas stove, despite the fact that they know it's worse for their customers, our cities, and just the whole planet. Hi, I'm Raleigh Williams, unconventionally unattractive, and a climate science and policy master's
How dare you? How dare you? You're so hot. Fuck you, man.
Pew, pew, pew.
Don't say that.
And I'm here to tell you that it might be time for us to break up with our gas stoves, despite what you may have seen on Instagram. Welcome to Climate Town. One thing to know about the natural gas industry is that it's got a long and proud tradition of absolutely batshit insane advertisements.
At Washington Natural Gas! Oh.
When I discovered electricity, I never meant for people to heat their homes with it.
Gas advertisements.
Dude, that's fire. God, I love marketing so much. It's so stupid. It is so fucking dumb. But then you have like this as a byproduct of that. You know what I mean? This paired up with like both parties' inabilities to like make material changes in people's lives, create this environment where you now have a culture war over the issue of gas stoves versus electric ones. But like they built this, they did it for years and years, and they again, you know, your consumption and your lifestyle choices are the only cultural signifiers that you have. So there's nothing else for you. So now you're a gas stove guy, okay? I'm a gas stove guy all the way, baby, through and through, okay? It's awesome.
Advertisements finally answer the question, what if we just never said no to any idea? They are all over the place, but a few center around some common themes such as natural gas will make you attractive to your wife again.
Barry?
Yeah, buddy.
Electricity both doesn't work and
Oh my God, what, dude, I want to see these fucking ads.
Barry?
What the fuck?
Yeah, buddy.
will make you all over to your wife.
That's insane. Says you, look at your kitchen, bucko.
The stem, so remove that.
Yeah, I've always had gas stoves. Yes, I've always had like. Wait, what do you mean? I was making fun of that guy because like I lived in the same exact style apartment.
But it's time to flip it. It's time to flip this over, boys.
That's why I made fun of him. Cause wait, what? Yeah, no, it's the same apartment. I know. I lived in it. That's why I was making fun of it. Y'all are so weird.
Make sure that both sides of the chicken are crispy. Well, not crispy, but at least both sides of the chicken are well cooked. So the inside is still juicy. Now, a little bit too much. Girls.
Anyway, I mean, Little Bear wasn't trying to get a gotcha out of me. It was just trying to show that I have
again.
that same.
Barry?
Here, buddy.
Electricity both doesn't work and does work, but is way too expensive. Natural gas is clean, and some variation on the electric utility company hates you and wants you to shower with this racist depiction of an Asian man.
Call Public Service Company.
But please,
What?
brace yourself for my personal favorite, rapping with gas.
Cooking with gas.
Cooking with
Gas. We all cook better when we're cooking with gas. Gas is so hot it's not
Yeah.
fun when it's not. It's the
Let's
only
go.
way to cook. That's what we were taught.
That song is over 4 minutes long. And despite the fact that they repeat the hook
Cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas. Cooking with gas.
Cooking
Yeah.
with gas.
36 times, they titled the song Rappin' with Gas. But that's just because, that song was written from the top of a pile of cocaine. And after the 5 minutes it took to write that song, they had already forgotten what they... And that hook isn't new.
Now you're cooking with gas.
Cooking with gas has been an industry standby since the 1930s when gas PR guy Deke Holgate pitched it to...
Oh my God. It's a term I use. Oh my God. This is so awesome. I say, oh, now we're cooking with gas all the time. It is a term I use regularly. If you're familiar with my mannerisms or the things that I use all the time, you know that it's something I say regularly. And I, not even for a brief moment, had considered that it was originally a PR move from the fucking 30s, dude. God damn. The way that shit enters our cultural zeitgeist becomes firmly a part of like colloquialisms, enters the lexicon, whatever you want to fucking call it, is incredible. It is incredible. And as always, as is the case with everything else in our culture, this is yet another perfect representation of how material realities and capital accumulation interests create an environment that slowly massages attitudes, ideas, manifestations into our culture. That's it. There's no better representation of this, okay, than a century after this thing comes in to comes into the fold. You literally are not even thinking about it and saying it as though like all of the premises that like cooking with gasoline over anything else, cooking with gas stoves over anything else is unironically better. Wow. Wow. That shit's crazy, man. Yeah, they're ironically gaslighting us. Yes.
Bob Hope's writers, and it became a radio catchphrase. And my God, what an old sounding sentence that is. That is the kind of sentence that like knows everybody at the grocery store and wants to introduce you to the lady who works in the bread department when you come home to visit. Who's single, by the way. Yeah, well, she's also like 45, by the way, Dad. I mean, old sounding sentence. Yeah, unsalted, cold, barely cooked eggs from 4 hours ago. Now that is Hollywood.
The only thing this dude's apartment is different than mine is that he has like real curtains, like some semblance of like a real shade, like a shader, whatever this is called. And normally an apartment of this price point would usually have the famous vertical blinds, which have always been a bane of my existence. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. He installed these himself, most likely. But I fucking hate vertical blinds. Anyone that's ever lived in an LA apartment or like a, cheaper, shittier, older apartment knows vertical blinds are just, I think they're created to basically torture renters because they break so easy. And then you like get duct tape and you try to duct tape it back, but it never sits right. And then they fall all the time. And they're so unnecessarily loud when they fall. You're like, what the fuck? That's how you know you've made it. When you move to an apartment that does not have vertical blinds, but as a matter of fact has horizontal blinds. Anyways.
Okay, Hollywood isn't all about glamorous 20 to 30 egg breakfasts. There's a lot going on in the edit bay behind the scenes. Speaking of behind the scenes, isn't it weird that natural gas advertisements are almost all focused on the gas stove, despite the fact that the gas stove represents just 3% of residential natural gas sales? According to the Energy Information Administration, 26% of natural gas sales come from water heating, and an astounding 69% of natural gas sales come from space heating. So why is such a huge fraction of the natural gas
The only thing that the gas stove has over a electrical one is that it's the electrical stoves are anti-Mexican propaganda, because there's no more effective way of heating a tortilla up than tossing it directly onto the fire, okay? Straight up, I'll say it. That's what I do, baby, every time, okay? You just got to fucking turn that shit on, slap the tortilla directly on the fire. That's how you got to do it. And you can't do that with an electric one. You can't. It's anti-Mexican propaganda. It's anti-Turkish propaganda. Try using a wok. There's too much preparation. You got to put it directly on the fire immediately. You know what I mean? There's no better way to do it.
marketing budget aimed at such a small fraction of the gas sales? Well, it's probably because all the natural gas you use in your home comes in through the same pipe. And if you or the apartment complex you live in decides to invest in the gas infrastructure for gas stoves, it's a much easier jump to the real gas heating moneymakers. It's like how Costco sells whole rotisserie chickens for $5. They're not making their money on the $5 chicken, they're using the $5 chicken to get you in the door, and then they make their real money when you impulse buy a drone on your way out. And I kind of lost the thread, but I think in this metaphor, a gas furnace is the drone, or a water boiler is the drone, or both. Whatever, I'm sure this part will be cut in the file. And for about 70-ish years, the natural gas industry tried to hammer home this concept that gas was cleaner and cheaper and faster, and electric stoves and heaters were slower and inefficient and the property of communist China. And for a while, they were not entirely wrong. I can't speak to the communist China stuff, but calling natural gas the clean-burning alternative to electric used to be pretty accurate because electricity used to be mainly powered by coal-fired power plants, which are directly linked to asthma, cancer, and heart and lung disease. You know, real day ruiners. And that's where the fact that we live in the 2020s actually makes a difference. I'll pick that up later. You see, gas isn't actually cleaner or cheaper or better anymore. There's a lot of ways to define cleaner, and gas loses to electric in like every category. Take your personal health, for example. A gas stove might look pretty clean, but this is a literal open flame in your kitchen. Gas stoves can lead to carbon monoxide levels 3 to 6 times higher than electric ranges. Gas stoves also produce double the harmful particulate matter, and the elevated nitrogen dioxide levels associated with gas stoves can affect the mental and respiratory development of children. In 1986, when the EPA's Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee—
Well, you're making your children not to be pussy asses, okay? That's what it is. You got to make sure that their lungs are stronger by consuming all that NO2, baby. That's right. Got to expose them when they're young, make them strong. All these liptard children are not going to be getting that same exposure, brother.
He found some troubling evidence that elevated nitrogen dioxide levels were having some pretty negative impacts on children. The gas industry had this to say.
Well, it's 3 times less in the east or west, so remember those figures when it's time to take a test.
And since the Clean Air Act of 1970 doesn't have jurisdiction over private residences, the gas industry wasn't legally obligated to disclose the dangers of these chemicals to the people who were, you know, breathing them in every day. And yeah, a lot of the early model electric stovetops sucked. It was basically like the dial-up internet of cooking.
And ladies, here's a tip for you. When you go shopping for your ranges, take your husbands along. They know real values.
But luckily, just like the internet, electric cooking has gotten super goddamn good. New electric stove technology is called induction. We're supposed to be in an IKEA. There we go. Okay, new electric cooking technology is called induction. It's a big upgrade from gas, and it uses, get this, magnets.
Water, fire, air, and dirt. Fucking magnets. How do they work?
Wow. Look, I know that song came out after 9/11, but it feels very pre-9/11. Does that make sense? Whatever. Induction magnets work by creating an alternating magnetic current that heats the metal directly.
Not wrong, actually.
In the induction.
Wait, how does this work? I don't understand.
Pre 9/11. Does that make sense? Whatever. Induction magnets work by creating an alternating magnetic current that heats the metal directly in the pan instead of the cooktop, which allows it to cook things twice as fast with literally twice the precision. Also, and this is a bonus, it doesn't cook the
too much science, brother. I don't want no magnets in my goddamn food. That's how they get you to turn gay.
Absolute shit out of everything around it on the grill. Hey, we got kicked out. Apparently you're not supposed to lean on all their stuff or film without their permission. I totally understand it. And for the record, I do not have an induction burner myself. I rent an apartment from a man I've never met who responds to less than 25% of my emails. I do not have an induction burner, okay? I'm not trying to sit here and tell you you're a bad person if you cook on gas. You're not a bad person. Actually, I don't know you. Maybe you are a bad person. That is between you and our Lord and Savior, Jesus fucking Christ. That is the loudest truck I've ever heard. The point is, induction is not some kind of fad like Chia Pets or television, okay? It is here to stay. Even professional chefs like Michelle Roux Jr. are switching to induction.
All the sauce is getting ready for lunch. And what's great about the induction is there's no heat. It's lovely. It's a great environment to be working in.
Even commercial pizza ovens that have to get way hotter than your oven at home are moving to all electric. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't afford to shoot in one of those pizza places. Psych! Location change, baby! We got a Patreon page now where people pay like $5 a month, and the link is in the bio, and now we can go inside of places without getting kicked out after 20 minutes. One of those insides is La Rossi Pizza in Brooklyn, New York, where they have, among other things, an all-electric pizza oven that gets super hot. How hot does this oven get? 950 degrees, that's so goddamn hot. But we're gonna cook myself a little pizza. And here's a slice of pizza.
Okay, that looks fire.
And it's fantastic. I mean, if it wasn't fantastic, would I be able to cram this entire slice in my mouth at once? Probably, but I wouldn't. But look, I get it. Maybe you just prefer cooking with gas. All right, maybe you're willing to take the risk for the advantage of a flame. Fine, totally understandable. And it's actually a fairly popular opinion. And we know this because the gas industry knows this. Because when they realized they couldn't compete with electricity in terms of health or quality, they had to find a way to appeal to people's emotional attachment to their product. So the American Public Gas Association, an industry group representing over 700 gas utilities, hired the hotshot PR company Porter & Novelli to figure out how to manipulate people's emotions enough to keep them using gas. Well, Porter & Novelli did the research, and they found out that people don't give a shit about whether their water boiler is gas or electric.
Thank you. So I guess I'm not fucking wrong, dumbasses. Like, there's literally empirical evidence to also back up the lack of interest I have in knowing what is fucking heating my goddamn water. You dumb motherfuckers in the chat. Like, dude, you're so out of touch. You're so fucking out of touch. Rich guy problems. This guy doesn't fucking know. It's like, no, most people just don't know, man. No one cares. No one cares. And no one should care. That is like literally like 70% of the reason why I want the government to deal with this shit instead, okay? I don't want to fucking deal with it.
And people don't give a shit about whether their heater is gas or electric. But people do give a shit about their gas stove. And that's the ticket, baby. If we can get enough people to keep buying gas, we can prolong the gas transition into electric until, you know what, we don't need an end game when we got cocaine.
Howdy, partners. This is no ordinary house. This is a home on the main, the Nashville gas main.
Who was that gas man?
Why, he's cocaine.
And as much fun as those Peruvian schneef powder-fueled ads used to be, people see right through that kind of thing now. So the gas industry had to find some new way to re-incept the idea of "we love gas" into the minds of people as soon as possible. And dang it if they didn't use up all their best lines in that Rappin' with Gas song.
Cooking with gas.
It's cleaner. Clean. The flame consumes the smoke and grease. You know what I mean?
The flame consumes the smoke and grease? You know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about a grease fire? Are you bragging about having a grease fire? Whatever. Porter Novelli had a different plan. influencers. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a very real page from the Porter Novelli proposal they wrote for the American Public Gas Association, showing their target audiences of Hispanic millennials, design enthusiasts, promising families, and young city solos. Each one is paired to a season, and each combination makes exactly zero f***ing sense. But hey, it wouldn't be much of a gas ad if it made any sense, now would it? And as fast as you could say Hispanic millennials represent the winter, the American Public Gas Association had spent $300,000 on a PR campaign that got small market influencers to make posts like this. And would you look at that, it's all stoves. That thing that makes them just 3% of their money. So weird. And notice something else here. They're no longer making the claim that
It's cleaner.
because it isn't. And they no longer claim
It's cheaper.
because it's not. Now the big selling point is that natural gas is.
Bro, like, I love cooking with gas because it helps cook food faster. Like, who the fuck watch? Oh my God. It's like, part of me is thinking this kind of marketing is so stupid, okay? Part of me is thinking this kind of marketing is so idiotic. Who the fuck looks at that and goes, oh yeah, that does make sense. But then the other part of me is thinking, wait a minute, it does kind of make sense because, like, most people probably think that way. I think that way. I didn't even know where I learned that. Because you're stupid. You're a human, right? Like, although it's objectively wrong, you think, fire, grug, means faster than electric. Don't see. You know what I mean? Don't see fire, me no like. That's literally what it is. They're tapping in to your fucking primal urges. Fire good. Fire keep me hot. Fire hot. Fire keep me strong. That's it. That's literally where that comes from. And they are able to just like uplift that narrative. They're able to like tap into that and just hammer on that point to our silly little fucking lizard brains, dude.
Faster, which is true if you're only counting traditional electric coils and not the much faster induction cooktops. But the real question is, why are they spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a campaign that doesn't even mention an actual brand or a way for people to buy their product? And sure, paying influencers to post about how precisely they can cook a taco doesn't seem that bad. But what they're actually doing is paying influencers to trick their audience into helping the gas company avoid—
Okay, that was cool as fuck. That was actually a very cool move.
Climate legislation. Oh yeah, it's all about climate change with me. That's my whole thing. That's my entire deal. I am insufferable to be around nowadays. Okay, we get it. You're self-deprecating. This guy. Oh, and another edit bay bit? You can't just dump to an edit bay every time you forget to write a joke. This guy. And since I'm not a hack like some people I know, let's go ahead and bring this burden of proof train into the station with a nice gas industry internal document, smoking gun style. This is the 2018 Speak Up for Natural Gas Advocacy Training Workshop document, link in the bio, sponsored by 3 of the biggest gas trade organizations in America. And in this document, they detail their plans to ask their employees to spread pro-gas messages and stories on social media, which, in my opinion, is a pretty whack-ass thing for a boss to ask their employees to do. They discuss how local citizens and advocates might not want natural gas extracted from their hometowns or pipelines built right through their backyards, and how gas employees promoting gas can sometimes be enough to change the narrative. They go over best practices for storytelling, how to control the narrative, and their big smoking conclusion in a document about which pro-gas arguments they should use is right here. Emotional arguments can shape the public narrative even when the facts don't support them. Emotional arguments can shape the public narrative even when the facts don't support them. Whew. Now they claim they're learning this tactic from the pro-environmental movement, but they go on to detail a whole bunch of other ways they can do it, and they conclude the document with this. It all boils down to how the natural gas industry chooses to tell its story. So Porter Novelli takes care of the influencers, and then the gas industry asks its own employees to jump on social media and spread a bunch of pro-gas disinformation. Wait, I'm sorry, that should be correcting misinformation. And speaking of correcting misinformation, hey, here's a fun, cool climate change fact you can tell your friends. Natural gas is as big of a driver of climate change as coal. And I know that might sound weird because common knowledge says coal is much dirtier burning than natural gas, and in a lot of ways it is. Burning coal releases all sorts of compounds that have certain health and environmental implications, but in terms of just climate change causing greenhouse gases, the math is not good for natural gas. The US Energy Information Administration says gas emits almost 50% less CO2 than coal, or half of one pizza. But natural gas is primarily composed of methane, which is itself a greenhouse gas with 80 times the potency of carbon dioxide over a 20-year period, and that's where fugitive emissions come into play. You can think of fugitive emissions like when a chemical escapes the supply chain before being turned into heat or energy. When a lump of coal falls off a truck on the way to a power plant, it just becomes a rock. Or like some lonely kid's best friend in a depressing kid's book. They still make those?
Shouts out to the Trump administration for unshackling this fugitive, the fugitive energy crisis in the form of, I believe, methane specifically, with respect to fracking. That was.
If they do, I feel like my friend Cole would do Harry Potter numbers. But the thing is, when natural gas leaks out of one of the 2 million miles of pipes and gas lines that transport natural gas around America and gets into the air, it becomes an ultra-potent greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. So if we're doing the math, it turns out we can afford to lose about 4% of natural gas through leaks before we're actually heating the planet more than the coal it was supposed to be displacing. And guess what percent we actually lose? It's like 9%. Here it is in pizza slices. Now, I'm not suggesting we should go back to coal. I'm suggesting we should haul ass towards electrification via renewables and battery technology. Even if we electrified every building overnight, it wouldn't cut natural gas out of the equation. Natural gas is still used as like one of the main fuel sources to generate electricity. But the reductions in emissions and fugitive emissions we would see from not having to pipe fossil fuels into 70 million.
See, this, like, you have to be joking, I think, right? Like, you don't watch this video and go, I say you're a bad person if you use gas stoves, because this is another aspect of the conversation that gets lost in people's minds, okay? If you, all of a sudden, turn random people who are completely oblivious to this kind of reality into enemies for no fucking reason, you're basically doing propaganda for the right wing. You're doing propaganda by setting unnecessary lines, unnecessary borders, making it seem as though it's like there is a competition. You were joking, but there were motherfuckers who said, nah, you're actually right. Like, immediately, no matter what fucking happens. So the point always is to basically showcase that, like, the point always is to recognize that people are completely oblivious to these choices because they haven't made these choices, and to explain it to them. Okay? And to advocate for systemic change rather than turn around and say, you gotta manipulate your own personal consumption choices, because your own personal consumption choices are irrelevant in the matter, in the grand scheme of things, which is precisely why things like the IRA, the IRA rebates for electric stoves is legitimately a good thing. Like that's just objectively a good thing. That is the government doing the right thing, okay? It's very stupid to just be against that. But Republicans are very stupid. And what is additionally hilarious about this subject is that turns out their base is not even using fucking gas stoves. They're using electric. Most people are just using electric. They don't even care. They didn't even think about this before. But now it's a motherfucking issue. Now it's turning into a culture war issue for no fucking reason. How crazy.
Buildings in America would represent an enormous reduction in our overall emissions. Today, buildings are generating about 30% of all of America's emissions via direct combustion of fossil fuels and fossil fuels in the electricity. And we have all the technology we need to greatly reduce those emissions already. But that would mean the gas industry couldn't sell gas outside of power plants, and that's gonna be a big no from the gas industry, dog. So in the past few years, cities have begun to realize that climate change is a big problem. and that fossil fuel-powered buildings aren't going to cut it anymore. So they began passing laws to remove gas from new buildings. While a lot of comprehensive climate policy needs to come from a national level, like putting a price on carbon pollution or adopting a federal clean energy standard, city governments get to write their own building codes, which led to 50 cities in California implementing this no new gas buildings policy pretty quickly. But then the craziest thing happened. Gas lobby groups went around to states with Republican-controlled legislatures and worked with them to quietly pass legislation that made gas utilities exempt from city regulation. They're called preemption laws, and they call them that because of the way they preemptively let gas lobby groups do whatever the they want. And they passed them so quietly that when Tucson, Arizona tried to pass a no new gas buildings law, they discovered they legally couldn't because state Republicans had just adopted a statewide gas exemption. Which, you know, feels pretty ironic for a political party whose whole thing is that they're against government overreach. Wouldn't you say? Texas then passed their own preemption law, then Oklahoma, and now a total of 20 state legislatures passed preemption laws to protect the precious gas industry from cities who want to set their own.
That's what I'm talking about, dude. Fuck that shit. Gas all the way, baby. Gas, gas, gas.
And so here we are. When the gas industry had to choose between destroying the environment for you and your children or taking a financial hit, they picked the money. And they enlisted the help of a few gullible influencers, morally bankrupt politicians, and even made their own employees post on Facebook about it. And so far, it's working for them. So if you're sitting there, or standing there, or even leaning there, and you want to know how you can get involved, there's a couple things you can do. First, and most importantly, you can support these building electrification advocacy groups using the links in the
Gay! Boo! Boo! We hate it. I'm pausing specifically so you know exactly who not to support, okay? We love this. Hobo Johnson coverage win? Who the fuck is Hobo Johnson? What the fuck is Hobo Johnson? Why do you know what that even is, bro? Isn't that the fucking Tiny Desk kid who was like, I'm so sad. I know, oh, this girl doesn't want to fuck me. Me. Like, that was the fucking 2018. We left that shit back in 2018! Anyway.
Bio. You can also call your local representatives and let them know you are very pro-building electrification. Or, if you live in one of these 20 states, you can call them up and let them know that you think preemption laws are some serious bullshit. If you happen to be in a place in your life where you can opt out of gas stoves, consider getting an induction burner, but the real name of the game here is collective action. Get out there, join those groups, and make some friends. Or at the very least, just make it a point to get more educated about the climate crisis. Because when enough informed climate advocates get together, oh boy, then we will really be cooking with